After decades of silence, Mia Farrow finally opens up about the day that changed everything. In January 1992, she walked into Woody Allen's apartment and found photographs that would shatter her world. But that wasn't the worst discovery. What followed was a nightmare of betrayal, abuse allegations, and family secrets that she's kept quiet about until now. At 79, she's finally ready to reveal the devastating truth about the man she calls her life's greatest regret. Mia Farrow was born on February 9, 1945, in Los Angeles, California. Her parents were both part of Hollywood. Her father, John Farrow, was a famous film director and writer from Australia, and her mother, Maureen O'Sullivan, was an actress who played Jane in the Tarzan movies from the 1930s and 1940s. Mia was the third child in a family of 7. She grew up in Beverly Hills, surrounded by luxury. Her family had a big, glamorous house where Hollywood stars would often visit. Even her godparents were famous: George Cukor, a well-known director, and Luella Parsons, a powerful gossip columnist. Mia had a playful and dramatic side as a child. She liked performing spooky little shows with fake blood and toy daggers for tourists passing by her house. At just 2 years old, she appeared in a short film called Unusual Occupations film taught Holiday. This was a hint of her future career in acting. But not everything about her childhood was perfect. Her father had a serious drinking problem, which caused a lot of fights with her mother. These fights upset Mia and made her think deeply about family and relationships, even when she was very young. Her family was also very strict about religion. Even though they lived a Hollywood lifestyle, they followed Roman Catholic traditions closely. Mia and her siblings went to Catholic schools in Los Angeles. This religious upbringing taught her strong morals and a sense of responsibility. Later in life, this influenced her decisions to help others and adopt children from different backgrounds. When Mia was 9 years old, something terrible happened. She caught polio during a big outbreak in Los Angeles in 1954. She had to stay in the hospital in quarantine for 3 weeks, completely alone. The disease caused her a lot of pain in her body, especially in her back, neck, and legs. At one point, she had to be put in an iron lung to help her breathe. Being separated from her parents was just as hard as the illness. She was scared and confused, but the nurses weren't kind. One nurse scolded her for crying, saying she was making things worse for everyone. The treatments were awful too, and Mia hated the hot packs they used as therapy. She later said that polio made her feel like her childhood was over. She no longer felt safe or protected, and the world seemed much scarier to her after that. When Mia was 13, another tragedy hit her family. Her oldest brother, Michael, died in a plane crash. Michael was only 19 years old and part of the Marine Corps Reserve. The crash happened on October 28, 1958, near Pima, California. The whole family was devastated. Her father, who already struggled with drinking, became even worse. This led to more violent arguments between her parents. At the time, Mia and her sister Prudence were in England attending a convent school. Mia heard about Michael's death while she was far from home, which made her feel even more alone. After Michael's funeral, Mia returned to her school in Surrey, while her family stayed in London for a while before moving to a house in Chelsea. This was a tough time for everyone, and Mia saw her parents fighting more than ever. In 1963, after her father passed away, Mia moved to New York City with her mother. Life changed here. She began modeling and acting in theater plays, slowly stepping into the acting world. It wasn't easy. She went to auditions and faced rejections, but she didn't give up. Her first small role as a child wasn't a big deal, but it gave her a taste of what was ahead. These tough beginnings taught her how to stay strong and keep trying. Soon, her persistence paid off, and her career started to take shape. In 1965, Mia auditioned for a big role, Liesl Von Trapp in The Sound of Music. The role didn't go to her, but this moment was important. The screen test still exists today and shows her singing and performing, giving us a glimpse of her early potential. The competition for the role was fierce because The Sound of Music was expected to be huge. Mia didn't get the part, but it didn't stop her. Shortly after, she got a role in Peyton Place, and that role changed everything. Missing out on the Sound of Music turned out to be just another step on her journey. Mia became a star when she played Allison Mackenzie in Peyton Place from 1964 to 1966. The show was about a small town and all the secrets, relationships, and struggles in it. Mia's role as Allison, a sweet but complex young woman, made her famous. People loved the show, and it became one of the first big soap operas on TV, bringing in millions of viewers every week. Her performance made Allison a character people cared about, and it showed how talented Mia was. But being famous wasn't all good. The media started watching her every move, and her marriage to Frank Sinatra got a lot of attention too. Her personal life often took the spotlight away from her work. After 2 seasons of Peyton Place, Mia left the show in 1966 because Sinatra wanted her to. Leaving the show was a big change for her. She moved on to focus on movies, and this led her to the role that would make her a legend. In 1968, Mia starred in Rosemary's Baby, a psychological horror movie directed by Roman Polanski. She played Rosemary Woodhouse, a pregnant woman who slowly realizes something terrible is happening around her. The story was about trust, fear, and the dark side of people. The movie was a huge success, earning over $30 million, and it got a lot of praise. Critics loved Mia's performance because she made Rosemary's fear and confusion feel so real. Roger Ebert even called her work brilliant. This role made Mia a true movie star and changed how women were seen in horror movies. Rosemary wasn't just a victim, she was a deep and relatable character. The movie became one of the best horror films ever made, and in 2014, it was added to the Library of Congress for its cultural impact. Rosemary's Baby didn't just make Mia famous, it showed the world how talented and special she was, starting a career full of unique and memorable roles. Mia Farrow's relationship with Woody Allen is one of the most talked about and complicated in Hollywood history. Over 10 years, she starred in 13 of his films, starting with A Midsummer Night's Sex comedy in 1982. Farrow played Ariel, a role meant for Diane Keaton. While the film got mixed reviews, it introduced Farrow to Allen's style of comedy and set the stage for what would become a long creative collaboration. Soon after, in Zelig, Farrow played Dr. Eudora Fletcher, a psychiatrist treating Leonard Zelig, a man who could blend into any crowd. The movie, released in 1983, was an unusual mix of mockumentary and fantasy. Farrow's calm, believable performance helped ground the story, and critics admired how she worked so well with Allen in this unique concept. Then came Broadway Danny Rose in 1984, where Farrow transformed into Tina Vital, a loud and brash gangster's girlfriend. She wore dark sunglasses and spoke with a thick New York accent, making the role completely different from anything she had done before. Her performance stood out so much that she earned a Golden Globe nomination. Even Allen commented on how bold it was for her to take on such a demanding role, given the physical and emotional transformation it required. One of her most touching performances came in 1985 with The Purple Rose of Cairo. Farrow played Cecilia, a struggling waitress during the Great Depression who finds escape in movies. Her portrayal of innocence and heartbreak earned another Golden Globe nomination. The movie itself was loved by critics and is often called one of Allen's best, with Farrow's performance being its emotional center. By the time they made Hannah and Her Sisters in 1986, their collaboration had produced some of Allen's most respected films. Farrow played Hannah, a steady and caring woman whose life connects all the other characters. Although Farrow wasn't nominated for any awards, the movie became one of Allen's greatest successes, winning multiple Academy Awards. Farrow's performance brought quiet strength to a role that might have otherwise been overlooked. In Radio Days, released in 1987, Farrow showed her comedic side again as Sally White, a cigarette girl who dreams of becoming a radio star. Her transformation from a squeaky-voiced nobody to a confident personality was both funny and charming. Later that same year, she starred in September, a much darker and more intimate film. Farrow played Lane, a woman recovering from trauma and struggling with her emotions in a confined setting. The role was intense and gave her a chance to explore deeper dramatic territory. Although the film wasn't a big hit, Farrow's performance stood out for its raw honesty. In Another Woman, 1988, Farrow had a smaller role as Hope, a troubled woman whose therapy sessions are overheard by the main character. Her screen time was limited, but her performance was crucial to the story, showing that even in a supporting role, she could leave a lasting impression. By the time Crimes and Misdemeanors came out in 1989, Farrow was already a regular in Allen's films. She played Hired, a documentary producer caught up in romantic complications. While her role wasn't the focus, she brought depth and subtlety to a film praised for its exploration of morality and human relationships. In 1990, Farrow took the lead in Alice, playing a wealthy Manhattan housewife who embarks on a magical journey of self-discovery. This role earned her another Golden Globe nomination, with critics praising her mix of humor and vulnerability. It was a role that let Farrow explore both whimsical and serious sides, proving once again how versatile she was. With Shadows and Fog in 1991, Farrow played Eri, a quirky sword swallower in a traveling circus. The film paid tribute to German expressionist cinema, and while it received mixed reviews, Farrow's unique performance brought life to the ensemble cast. Their final film together, Husbands and Wives, came out in 1992. Farrow played Judy, a woman dealing with the breakdown of her marriage. The movie had a raw, almost documentary-like feel, and Farrow's performance was deeply emotional and authentic. Despite the personal turmoil surrounding its production, her work was widely praised. Over these 13 films, Farrow showed she could handle everything from comedy to drama, often transforming herself completely for a role. She received 3 Golden Globe nominations for Broadway: Danny Rose, The Purple Rose of Cairo, and Alice. Even when she wasn't winning awards, her performances left a lasting impact, making her an essential part of some of Allen's most memorable and critically acclaimed films. Mia Farrow married Frank Sinatra when she was 21 years old on July 19, 1966. Sinatra was 50, making their age gap a massive 31 years. They met in 1964 on the 20th Century Fox lot and fell for each other quickly despite their differences. For Sinatra, it was his 4th marriage, but it was Farrow's first. They had a big wedding in Las Vegas, but problems started almost immediately. Sinatra wanted her to give up acting and focus on their life together. This became a huge issue when she got a role in Rosemary's Baby in 1968, directed by Roman Polanski. Sinatra was furious and even sent her divorce papers while she was filming. Farrow refused to quit the movie, which led to their split. Later, she admitted she was young and didn't know how to handle such a complicated relationship. Even after they divorced in 1968, they stayed close, and Farrow said they never really separated emotionally. They remained friends until Sinatra's death in 1998. After Sinatra, Farrow married Andre Previn in 1970. She was 25, and he was 49, which was another big age gap. During their marriage, they had twin sons, Matthew and Sasha, in 1970 and another son, Fletcher, in 1974. Farrow also began adopting children. She adopted Lark from Vietnam and Daisy from Korea while still with Previn. Their family life seemed happy, but problems surfaced when Farrow found out Previn was unfaithful. This caused their marriage to end in 1979. Farrow later said she regretted how the divorce affected her kids, but she stayed focused on being a loving mother. In the same year, 1979, Farrow started a relationship with filmmaker Woody Allen. This would become one of the most controversial parts of her life. Their romance lasted 12 years, and during that time, Farrow starred in 13 of Allen's movies. Their professional collaboration helped her career, but their personal life eventually became a scandal. Farrow's family grew over the years. She became known for adopting many children and being a devoted mother. While married to Previn, she adopted Lark and Daisy in addition to having her 3 biological sons. After her divorce, she continued to adopt. She welcomed Moses in 1980 and Dylan in 1985, who later became central in her conflict with Allen. By the 1990s, Farrow had adopted even more children, including Thaddeus from India and Quincy Maureen from Vietnam. In total, she adopted 14 children, creating a large and diverse family. Despite her dedication to motherhood, she faced heartbreak. 3 of her children passed away. Tam died in 2000, Lark in 2008, and Thaddeus in 2016. These losses were devastating. But Farrow continued to stay strong for her family. Alongside parenting, she became an advocate for children's rights and used her voice to help vulnerable kids around the world. Mia Farrow's life took a devastating turn in January 1992 when she discovered that Woody Allen, her long-term partner, was having an affair with her adopted daughter, Sunny Previn. The moment was shocking and unforgettable. While visiting Woody's New York apartment, Mia stumbled upon a stack of explicit Polaroid photographs of Sunny. At the time, Sunny was 21 years old, and the affair had begun while she was still living with Mia. Sunny had been adopted by Mia in 1977, years before her relationship with Woody began. Finding these photos was a crushing betrayal that not only destroyed Mia's trust but shattered the foundation of her family. Mia and Woody had been together for over a decade. During their relationship, they built a unique but complicated family. They had 3 children together, 2 adopted, Dylan and Moses, and 1 biological son, Ronan, who was originally named Satchel. The discovery of the photos marked a breaking point. Mia later described her reaction in vivid detail, saying, "I was just shaking. I took my child home and locked the door." The betrayal wasn't just about Woody, it was also about Sunny, someone Mia had loved and raised. The pain was immediate and overwhelming. The fallout from the discovery was explosive. News of the affair spread like wildfire, and the media latched onto the story. The headlines weren't just about infidelity, they delved into issues of morality, power dynamics, and family loyalty. Mia confronted Sunny after finding the photos, and the confrontation was filled with raw emotions, tears, anger, and confusion. Sunny's actions and Woody's betrayal left Mia struggling to make sense of what had happened in her own home. Woody tried to defend himself, claiming that Mia's accusations were driven by anger over his relationship with Sunny, but the public was not forgiving, and his public image took a serious hit. But that wasn't the only incident. Woody Allen was accused in 1992 of sexually abusing his 7-year-old adoptive daughter, Dylan Farrow. On August 4, Dylan told her mother, Mia Farrow, that Allen had molested her at their Connecticut home. This happened shortly after Mia found out that Allen was having an affair with her adopted daughter, Sunny Previn. The situation was full of emotion and chaos, as Mia was devastated by Allen's betrayal while also trying to process Dylan's shocking claim. After Dylan shared what happened, Mia started filming her on a camcorder. She wanted to document Dylan's account of the alleged abuse. This video later became a central piece of evidence in the legal fight that followed. The Connecticut State Police launched an investigation. They interviewed Dylan and other family members to figure out what happened. Despite the serious nature of the allegations, no charges were filed. The state's attorney said there wasn't enough evidence to press charges but also said they couldn't rule out that abuse had occurred. As part of the investigation, Yale New Haven Hospital specialists interviewed Dylan to understand her emotional and mental state. Their findings caused a lot of debate. Some experts thought Dylan's words sounded rehearsed or influenced by Mia. Others noticed inconsistencies and suspected Dylan might have been coached. On the other hand, some believed Dylan's distress seemed real and her emotions pointed to genuine trauma. The mixed opinions made the case even more complicated. Meanwhile, Allen filed for custody of Dylan and his other 2 children, Moses and Satchel. The custody battle was very public and emotional. Both sides presented evidence and testimony, but the court ruled in Mia's favor. She kept custody of the children, and Allen lost visitation rights with Dylan. The judge's decision reflected serious concerns about Allen's actions. The fight didn't end there. For years, Allen and Mia accused each other of wrongdoing, and the case stayed in the spotlight. As Dylan grew up, she continued to stand by her story, insisting it was true. Mia Farrow's part in the HBO series Allen vs. Farrow was a big moment in her long fight to share her side of the story about Woody Allen and the abuse allegations involving their daughter, Dylan Farrow. The documentary came out on February 21, 2021, and was directed by Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering. It had 4 episodes, digging deep into what happened back in 1992 when Dylan, at just 7 years old, accused Allen of abuse. The filmmakers used home videos, court records, police reports, and interviews with family members and experts to make the story clear and detailed. At first, Mia wasn't sure about being part of the series. The filmmakers had to convince her, and during production, they used the name Eliza Project to keep it a secret. They wanted to give Mia and Dylan a safe place to tell their story without it being twisted by the media, which often sensationalized everything. One of the most powerful parts of the documentary was old footage from Mia's home videos. It showed Dylan as a child sharing her story shortly after the alleged abuse. Watching this was emotional and heart-wrenching, offering a rare, honest view of what the family went through. The series also looked at what happened after the allegations, like the bitter custody fight between Mia and Woody Allen. Public opinion and media coverage played a huge role, often favoring Allen. He refused to be part of the documentary, which some felt made the story one-sided. Others argued that his absence gave Mia and Dylan the space they deserved to share their experiences without interruptions. Either way, the focus stayed on Mia and Dylan's perspective, showing their pain and strength. For Mia Farrow, being part of this documentary was a mix of emotions. In a rare interview, she spoke about how her relationship with the Oscar-winning director went from happiness to regret. Reflecting on the early days, Farrow said she was over the moon happy, but everything changed by the 1990s. Farrow didn't hold back when describing her feelings about Allen today. She called their relationship the biggest regret of her life. "If I could take it all back, I would," she said, according to People. "I wish I'd never met him. That's my great regret of my life, to bring somebody like that, who should never have been in the family, in." In 2018, during an interview with Elle, Farrow shared more insight into their highly publicized relationship. She explained that it wasn't as simple as people might think. "It's not all white or black," she said. "Otherwise, you'd ask yourself what on earth you're doing with that person for 10 minutes, let alone for 10 years. She continued, "I reached a place many years ago where I just don't care about him." To this day, Allen and Farrow remain estranged. In a 2016 interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Allen revealed that they have no contact. When asked if he ever sees Farrow, he replied, "No. I don't think she lives in New York. I think she lives in Connecticut. I'm not sure, or travels for UNICEF or something." Almost 3 decades after their very public breakup and custody battle, Farrow admitted she still feels fear about Allen's possible actions, especially after her involvement in the HBO series. Allen, who has been married to Sunny for 23 years and raised 2 daughters with her, did not appear in the documentary but was heard through audiobook excerpts from his 2020 memoir Apropos of Nothing. In the documentary, Farrow expressed her concerns. "I'm just scared," she said. "I worry that when this documentary comes out, he'll be on the attack again." She also shared her belief that Allen would stop at nothing to protect himself. "He'll do whatever he has to do to try to save himself from the truth, from the mess he made," Farrow said. Her words painted a vivid picture of the pain and fear she has carried for years. Meanwhile, Mia Farrow's career changed a lot in the 2000s. She moved from movies to TV and theater, showing she could still take on different roles and do them well. After spending years raising her children and taking fewer acting jobs, she proved her versatility and resilience. She came back to acting with a lot of energy. One of her first TV roles during this time was in the show Third Watch. Between 2000 and 2003, she appeared in 5 episodes, playing a mother who dealt with tough situations in a gritty city. This role let her show audiences she could handle deep emotional stories even after being away from the spotlight. In 2001, Mia acted in the TV movie A Girl Thing, which was about love and friendship between women. She starred alongside other famous actresses like Kate Capshaw and Stockard Channing. The movie had themes that connected with modern audiences, and Mia's role added to the story's emotional weight. Then, in 2002, she played the lead role in the Lifetime movie The Secret Life of Zoe. The story was about a young girl dealing with personal problems, and Mia's performance showed she could bring depth and understanding to this kind of modern family drama. At the same time, Mia started doing theater. She joined a touring play called The Exonerated in 2002. This play was about people who were wrongly sent to prison and the death penalty. Her role showed that she cared about acting in stories that had real meaning and talked about serious issues. In 2003, she acted in a play called Fran's Bed, which explored love and loss in an emotional way. This theater work proved that Mia could still take on powerful roles and connect with audiences on stage. In 2000, Mia also started focusing on humanitarian work. She became a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, using her fame to help children in need around the world. She traveled to places hit by war, poverty, and disease, including parts of Africa and Asia. One of the most important trips she took was to Darfur, where she saw how violence had hurt so many people. In 2006, she visited refugee camps in Chad, where people from Darfur had fled for safety. She listened to their stories and brought attention to their suffering. She spoke out about the violence, calling for the world to act quickly to protect these vulnerable people. Her work helped get more media attention on the crisis and pushed more people to support efforts to help Darfur. Mia didn't stop with just talking about the problems. She joined campaigns like Fund for Darfur to raise money for survivors of violence and projects that worked on peace. She used the personal stories she heard to show people how real and urgent these issues were. Her efforts were noticed, and she won awards from groups that fight for human rights. Mia's work with UNICEF inspired many people to get involved in helping others, proving that a celebrity can use their voice to make a difference. Her focus on Darfur became a big part of her activism. When she visited Chad in 2006, she said the situation was getting worse. The violence had spread from Darfur into Chad, and even the refugees were no longer safe. To bring attention to this, Mia went on a hunger strike in 2009. The strike lasted several days and got a lot of media attention, which helped her message reach more people. She also worked with groups like Save Darfur Coalition and Aegis Trust, which provided aid and helped refugees rebuild their lives. Even with all this activism, Mia managed to keep her acting career alive. Raising 14 children wasn't easy, but she still took on acting roles that mattered to her. While she acted less in big films, she focused on TV and stage projects that matched her values. She also used interviews and public appearances to talk about global issues, blending her acting work with her activism. She made sure her career and her humanitarian work supported each other.